Welcome to The Disruption Is Now. Join us on this enlightening journey as we explore how AI is impacting our jobs, careers, lives, and the human experience. Each episode, host Greg Matusky will converse with visionaries and innovators at the forefront of AI, diving into its challenges, opportunities, and impact. So buckle up as we venture into the heart of disruption, and together, let's unfold the future.
We're back for one more year at Ai4, where 8,000 companies are converging to share with one another what's new in AI. It's an exciting show. It's a big show. We're going to be bringing a lot of guests to you in our podcast, The Disruption Is Now, so make sure you stay tuned. Well, the Disruption Is Now podcast is on the road. We're at Ai4 in Las Vegas. It is the world's largest AI conference. We've had a magnificent conference so far, 8,000 people from around the world talking about AI and its implications in our economy, in our culture, in commerce. And we're kicking it off with a great first guest, somebody that goes back to the internet days with an important site called Real Age. Charlie Silver is now the CEO and founder of Permission, which is a business that helps both AI providers as well as consumers see value out of data and information. I probably got that wrong. Why don't you fill in the dots, connect the dots for us, Charlie?
Not too bad.
All right.
The whole premise of Permission is that data has enormous value and consumers have yet to see any value from it. They get services, but meanwhile, the big tech companies are worth trillions, all built on the one resource, data. And consumers have data, has value, and Permission was always focused on how value can be delivered to consumers, monetary value for their data. We've been in digital advertising for years, but now with AI opens up this whole new world because AI needs permission.
So tell me about it from the consumer side first. Tell me about if you're a consumer and you own your data and you would like to merchandise that, to monetize it. How does it work on the consumer side?
Very simple. Go to permission.io or permission.ai and download the Permission agent. You create a profile, you grant permission. That says to the agent, you have permission to sell my data to people who want to buy it. And that's all it is. It's simple. Once you download that agent, all you do is start getting notifications that Nike bought your data, American Express bought your data, et cetera,
Explain that some more for us, Charlie, because average people don't understand why Nike would be buying certain data and see value in certain demographics more than others. How does that work? How does the marketplace work for data?
Well, if you download the Permission agent, it's like a cookie. No different than a cookie. It tracks your browsing. If it sees that you like to play tennis or golf or football or soccer, Nike's going to be interested in that data. And they're willing to pay for it. And that compensation flows through. We're the agent. We're like Jerry Maguire or, Ari Emanuel. We're the agent that helps consumers make money from their data.
So where did the idea originate? Was it on the consumer side or the B2B side with
this
AI?
idea goes back 25 years to a company I founded called Real Age, which was the first version of asking permission, because Real Age collected hundreds of data points about people's health and well-being, and then we would ask permission, would you like to receive products and information about products and services that can make your Real Age younger? And for people who opted in, which was about over half, 60%, the ROI to the advertiser wasn't just a little bit better, wasn't 2 or 3x better, it was 10x better. When somebody consciously opted in to say, yes, I want to receive information.
And that your site, Real Age, was really ahead of its time because it did contemplate how you could improve your own fitness and health to reverse your ages or to live a healthier life. That was something, when I saw it for the first time, was really revolutionary to me.
Yeah, and I had a great partner. Our big success was, we all know who Dr. Oz was. Dr. Oz was our partner very early on before he became really famous. And then he was on the Oprah show and ended up taking over the Oprah show. So he was crucial to our success.
Well, that's a wild story. Now let's go back to permission. Help me with the B2B side. How does it work on that side? How do you create these relationships, or do you have to? You just merchandise it through some marketplace? How does it work?
No, we have to find businesses that want to make sure that they're building AI models and agents on real, verified, human, auditable data with real permission, because the regulatory landscape is quite clear in Europe and most of Asia. In the US, California's got the California Privacy Rights Act. But if you're building AI models and agents, data is your natural resource. You want to make sure
that's the commodity, right? That's the materials. The commodity. That's what you build from.
And you want to make sure you're working with the best materials. I did a presentation yesterday and I showed a very fancy chef. Doesn't matter how good the chef is, how great his techniques and skills are, you still need the best ingredients.
Walk us through the standards of data, right? You say for compliance, you say for human generated, you say permission based. Like, what's the hierarchy, I guess, that makes the gold standard of data?
Well, much of you see on ChatGPT, they just scrape the internet, just scrape it, no permission. Same with most of the AI, big, large language models. They just scrape the internet. They don't have permission. They don't know what the data is. And by the way, people in the internet industry, digital advertising, knows half the traffic are bots, are little software programs that just click on things and go to things to drive.
So what do you think the percentage of data is just bad that we're making these decisions on?
Well over half.
So well over half is just generated from bots and
crap. That's all you can. That's all I can say is just totally made up, not real, and so much of the internet is based on bot data.
So the whole intent here is to purify that data to inform the models in a more authentic way.
Precisely. And it's the old adage, everybody knows it, garbage in, garbage out. And you got to make sure that if you're investing a lot in building an AI model or an agent, you want to make sure the training and all of the modeling is done on the best quality data. Now, you could use crap data, but you're going to get crap results. And it's that simple. If you want gold standard of data, you got to ask permission.
Now, you've been around a while. You have real experience. Where do you think it's going to go as far as permission, information? I mean, we're still waiting for that New York Times OpenAI case to be settled. Do you think there's going to be standards put in place? Do you think there's going to have to be more licensing? What's it going to take to transition from the Wild West to a higher standard?
Well, Europe and most of Asia has GDPR, the Global Data Protection Regulations. GDPR keeps getting more teeth put into it. Google, Meta have paid billions, not millions, billions in fines to the European Union for violation of GDPR. Amazon doesn't run their ad business because they can't be compliant with GDPR in Europe. Amazon's got a huge e-commerce business in Europe, but they can't run their ad business there because they're not compliant. They know they're not compliant and they don't even participate. I believe California Privacy Rights Act, they're still writing the rules. Google and Meta have been very successful and keep pushing it out, saying we need another 6 months, we need another year, but they are writing the rules. And I think California, the California CCPA is going to set the standard. And if California has a set of rules, everybody has to be compliant with it because California is the largest state in the country.
Well, I want to thank you for being with us. It's a real honor as far as your track record and what you've done in online communications and advertising. So it's very great to interview you. I really appreciate it. And let's keep trying to purify that data so we can have better models that are more accurate, more authentic, and more compassionate too.
And that the consumer is compensated appropriately for their asset, which is their data.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Well, it's day 2 of AI4. What a show it's been so far. 8,000 people from around the world. We've had a constant flow at our booth here at Gregory FCA. We're launching some clients, and of course, we're doing the podcast. The disruption is now. But I'm going to introduce my next guest, Diederik Greveling. Did I say that right?
Almost perfectly.
Okay, so, almost. How do you say it in Dutch?
So it's a typical Dutch name, right? So if I would pronounce it in Dutch, it would be Diederik Greveling.
Okay,
but for an English native speaker,
I'm never going to come close.
Yeah.
The company he works at, he's CTO of Xebia.
Xebia, yes.
With some 6,500 employees around the world.
Correct.
Working with enterprises to enable their tech stack on many levels. Give me a little overview of the kind of work you're doing around the world.
Yeah, sure. No problem. So Xebia is a global IT consultancy firm, right? We have been around for the last 20 years and started off with a group of Java engineers. And over time, we effectively started expanding, right? So we invested into the cloud domain, into the data and AI domain. We also have an agile transformation domain, as well as low code that we do a lot of work in. And also we have a separate Microsoft service line. Where we're basically, because Microsoft is its own domain, right? It's so large that we have a separate service line for.
And we were talking a little bit about the explosive growth of your firm and where it's come from in the verticals on the enterprise level.
Yeah.
And specifically AI, we'll go to that. It is AI4. So tell me how that's been a business driver and what are enterprises, what are they expecting from you? How are they partnering with you? How are they moving forward?
That's a very good question. So first and foremost, I think AI is booming, right? So we have been active in this field for the last 15 years. And
tell us a little about that boom and bust cycle you were sharing with me before this.
Yeah.
How even back into the 80s.
Yeah. So I think so. If you look at AI, right, we had multiple cycles already. So even in the 80s when neural networks were invented, we also had a relatively short cycle where people thought, okay, this is going to be the future, right? It turned out that the compute resources needed to be able to catch up, right? And now if you look at the last 15 years, I think. If you look at more traditional AI, so think applied AI using the standard machine learning models, we also kind of went to this whole boom, right? So saying, okay, and data science models are going to change the world. It turned out that they were quite valuable, but still there were some challenges with that. And now we're in our next iteration, so the Gen AI type of revolution that we're incurring.
And you shared with me before this, you called it traditional AI in the world of machine learning. And I think a lot of people don't realize that Gen AI brought it to the forefront. But before this revolution of ChatGPT being introduced in December of 2022, really it was enterprise level AI doing machine learning to what were we working on throughout that?
So at the time, it was more about prediction, right? So for example, good use cases would be demand forecasting, right? So what we're doing with Xebia, right? In this case, in Europe, we help out one of the larger retailers to forecast the demand of every item in every store. So we're really talking about a few 100,000 predictions per day.
So
right?
in this very unstable world where tariffs, supply chain issues, pandemics, how does that help that process of demand forecasting?
That's a very good question, right? So and I think there's a lot of answers to this. What I would say is that in terms of demand forecasting, there are multiple elements to it. So just already knowing, right, what probably what the ask will be is already quite valuable, because then you can indeed look into and do the tariffs maybe change. Do I already need to buy in more resource because I think the tariffs will go up or go down, etc., etc. And these type of demand forecasting models help with that, right? Because you can you have let's say a prediction about what your demand forecasting might be. And the valuable thing is there, if that's a good forecast, you can definitely save resources, time, and money there.
So let's jump forward now in the introduction of generative AI and what that really opened up. Why is that such an important landmark along the way?
So I think what Gen AI brought us when you compare it to, let's say, traditional or applied AI as well. So suddenly we went from predicting to basically generating new content, right? Especially so if you looked at ChatGPT, the nice thing about that was that you could indeed that you could ask it a question and it would generate something
Natural
for you,
language.
Right? Indeed.
All of a sudden, someone like me, I've made my living as a writer and communicator.
Well,
all of a sudden, I could communicate with computers. It was literally an epiphany. Right?
And how do you feel about that? Do you think it helps you out more, or do you have to feel?
I say this all the time, Diederik. The most joyful day of my career was when I first, in December 2022, used ChatGPT.
Nice.
Because I had spent my entire life developing my neural pathway in my brain to be able to write, and I know how hard that is. And I saw in my firm, Gregory FCA, how difficult it was for many people. And when I saw it, I suddenly realized, Diederik, that I could really help other people communicate better, which I believe is a force for good. If we become better at human communications, we can get rid of a lot of misconceptions, a lot of mistakes, a lot of errors in understanding. I think we're better off as a people. And that was always a challenge in my career, is teaching other people how to do it. What works so well with me in generative AI is I spent so much time teaching other people to write, that I know how to interface with the machine, because it's like interfacing with a colleague, right?
Indeed.
I could tell the machine. I could tell a colleague the tone's just not right, or it's not high enough level, or we need more facts here. This just sounds like it's puffery, and that's the same way often I'll communicate with the machine.
It's very interesting that you say this, right? Because I had exactly the same, but then with programming, right? So I'm a CTO, but I still try to be behind the keyboard from time to time. And also when I used Gen AI for the first time for helping me out with coding, right? With writing code, I suddenly had this feeling, oh, wait, I don't have to do the boring stuff anymore, right? So writing tests, etc. I can just have to be generated,
right?
And that's for me. I mean, it's almost the same for you, I think, right? So,
it's the same thing. And I'm not a coder. My son's a coder.
Okay,
and he gets equally excited when he tells me, Agentive. He's doing a lot of agent development, and he's like, "Dad, oh my gosh, the advances made in the last 3 months have been
it's been crazy
and it's really relieved me of a lot of the tedium, even with generative to code, right?" Indeed. He said with some of the tools for assistant creation, he said we could have done 2 years ago, because he built my platform inside Gregory FCA, my generative AI platform. He goes, we could have done it in days instead of months. So he has that same experience that I did as a writer, that you did as a coder.
Indeed.
It's joyful.
It's joyful, yeah. Of course, there's a balance to be made, right? So just like you mentioned that you still, so like you mentioned, you already had a lot of experience with it, right? With writing properly, and you were able to give the good, the right instructions. And I think the same still holds for coding, right? So even with Gen AI, it's an extremely valuable tool. You still need to have the knowledge yourself to basically interpret it about what is happening. And I think a challenge might arise in that for the future.
I agree. If you don't have that foundational, sometimes I feel like I'm doing a parlor trick when I use Gen AI in front of people, because I have that experience. I know how to write for a subject matter expert in a lot of different industries, or a CEO. I have that nuance. I understand it. When other people sit down, they come to it and they expect almost a Xerox copy. It's perfect when it comes out, and that's not the way. You need that foundational understanding of the subject matter, and then put those together, and you really do have a powerful pairing.
Then it becomes powerful. Yeah. Fully agree on that, and I think that, and it's also a little bit where the world is moving currently, right? So if you look, for example, in the IT domain. So Xebia really realizes that, if our engineers don't, learn to use Gen AI tooling, we are going to fall behind, right? Because in the end, you become more effective.
That's right.
So that's also why our strategy is that every engineer uses Gen AI tooling for basically, development, because we can do more in less time.
And it's interesting because I kind of stumbled into this whole AI world. I was a writer. Right, I know the difficulties in writing on a high level, and it was brought to my attention by my son, who was a coder, 2 years before chat, that we were facing this existential threat, and it really did help me teach young people those nuances, because before that we were so focused on the data.
Yeah.
And in my world, data is writing, verbs, syntax, grammar. And I didn't have time to really teach the nuances of communication, like how to drive a message to the right audience, right? So now I find I can focus more on higher value tasks. And I see this in our hourly breakdown. The tedium hours are going down.
Going down, yeah, exactly.
The second, the mid-level hours are going up, where you have to do certain things which do require real skills, but isn't the highest level. And the relationship hours are going way up. And
indeed, yeah.
You know, I gave a talk yesterday, and someone pointed out the point of cognitive decline, that if you become so dependent on AI,
it is an issue, right? So
right.
Especially also in, let's say, in schools, right? And where especially in education, you still need to develop critical thinking skills, right? And you still need to build this knowledge. But whenever I use GenAI and, you know, it's making like 40 or 60 changes to the code, sometimes I think, okay, let me just run it, and if it works, it's fine, right? So then I sometimes stop interpreting it, and that is a bad thing, right? Because you still need to understand.
I hear you. In my world, I'm having a hard time deciding whether that's laziness or it's cognitive decline, right?
It's a very interesting thing. So actually we had a use case, right? So we built this email system for one of our clients, where they got like 10,000 emails per day, and they had like 200 people just answering those emails, filtering them out, etc., etc. And now we build a system that automatically generates an answer to an email, right? But then at some point, you know, we saw that, you know, some of the users and they still had to validate the answer, but they became a little bit more, I don't want to say lazy, but they clicked accept quicker, whilst they could have written a better answer on their own, right? And that is a challenge. So that is. You need to stay aware from that.
Yeah.
And that is,
and in the world of language, it's always so affirmative.
Yeah.
It sounds right. Like the grammar's right. The usage is right, but the assumptions are wrong.
Indeed.
And it can fool you, because you think, if you're not really critical in reading it, you go, but that's not right. That sounded right. Right.
Correct.
And I find myself sometimes slipping into that track, especially when I'm moving quickly. But Diederik, it's been a great conversation.
Great conversation.
Great to meet you.
Yeah.
And hope AI4 goes well for you all, and you keep on your growth trajectory. We'll be back here next year when you have 20,000 employees and you're dominating the world. Is that the game plan?
Well, so maybe. So we have been going from, let's say, a few hundred to 6,500 in the last 8+ years, right? So so we will definitely keep growing. And I think given the AI boom, you know, I think what did he say in English? The sky's the limit. So,
the sky's the limit. Yeah.
Indeed.
I thought you were going to say we'll hit a home run. That's always the baseball analogy. So it was great meeting you. Good. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Nice.
Being here at AI4, you see a lot about technology. You see a lot about data management. You see a lot about issues that really affect how you build and implement AI models. And one thing that's overlooked and is not really represented well is the human element of AI. You go from booth to booth, you learn a lot about the technology and learn about what it can do, but you don't really see how it impacts human beings and the human condition. So I'm really proud that we have Sandy Skelaney here. She's CEO of the Parasol Cooperative. Do I have that right?
COO.
COO. I'm sorry. I just promoted you.
Yeah, you promoted me. Thanks.
And that's a trauma-informed chatbot. Let's get into this. What exactly have you built?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, the Parasol Cooperative is a nonprofit organization. So we focus on building technology to be able to help people in situations of crisis, to help protect people from harm. So we have a couple of different technologies, but in our flagship technology right now that we're promoting, we launched in September, called Ruth. It's a trauma-informed generative AI chatbot that can help people identify and navigate situations of crisis, abuse, human trafficking, technology-facilitated abuse, and all kinds of things.
And this is a category we call soul tech, which really improves the human condition. And there's a lot of misconception out there about this. How did you inform the machine? How did you train the machine to be able to respond?
So what's the secret sauce?
Yeah.
So, really, like, just backing up a second to be like a little bit higher level. My background is actually in the nonprofit world, and I have built and led mental health programs and advocacy programs for youth that were sexual trafficking victims. And so in the world where you're providing direct services, you have trauma-informed care principles that are kind of embedded into the different protocols, organizational protocols on how to work with clients and how not to work with clients. And so Ruth, our chatbot, is really designed to interact with people that are in the similar situations, help guide them through situations of crisis. But we've taken these principles, these trauma-informed principles that are used out there in the field, and kind of said, look, we're going to embed these into Ruth, right? And so Ruth responds in a trauma-informed manner that would be industry standard for mental health agencies. And so it's part of our, our prompt layer, but it's also part of kind of the orchestration layer, the behavioral controls, and how much ability we give it to be creative or factual. And then also we have kind of like this, one thing that's really important about what we do, and maybe different from some of the other LLMs, is in the post-processing, where we have escalation flow that's triggered by certain kind of conversations that happen. So whereas other
within the chatbot.
So if somebody's having a conversation using the bot, for example, you can ask ChatGPT, I lost my job, what's the tallest bridge in New York City? And it'll say the tallest bridge is George Washington Bridge, right? If you ask Ruth the same question, Ruth is going to pick up on the context of you possibly having a mental health crisis, because you're saying you just lost your job, which is a stressful situation, and what's the tallest bridge at the same time. So Ruth is going to respond, look, this is concerning to me that you're mentioning this at the same time. And so my priority is to keep you safe. And so are you safe right now? And, kind of what do you need? Like, how can I help you?
Before we went live, you were telling me a little bit about some of the safeguards you have in place. Just go through those. Let's get through the safeguards that are in place so that it's totally private and secure.
So first of all, I'm not the developer. I'm just the COO, right? But also kind of those different actual rules and instructions that are in our prompt, that's kind of our proprietary data. But we actually work with organizations that are building chatbots and LLM applications to be able to help them embed trauma-informed principles. So we're creating right now a trauma-informed standards of care for AI framework. We're going to be able to consult with other organizations to help them also build up their...
But you would also share there were some simple things like an escape key and things like that.
So there's an escalation protocol. So if somebody's saying that, they're having kind of a mental health crisis or something like that, it's not going to, for example, if you're having suicidal ideation, Ruth definitely cannot, under any circumstances, be a sycophant and tell you that's a really great idea. Maybe you shouldn't live anymore, right? Like that's something that won't happen because we've made very strict protocols against that. And it will, in addition to that, refer you to emergency services, give you phone numbers to call, stuff like that.
So as a mental health professional, where do you see AI will play a part? And where are the risks and where are the real opportunities, do you think?
There have been so many opportunities. Like when we started Ruth, I think we're starting to even recognize more of the benefits and the niche markets that are like interested in Ruth. And for example, hotlines right now and mental health services in general are very overwhelmed. There's like an overwhelming demand for help, and there just aren't enough workers in this space, mental health workers like advocates and therapists. So AI can really fill gaps in kind of accessibility and availability of help 24/7 It's, Ruth speaks over 90 languages. So there's like language barriers that maybe traditional advocates might be experiencing, that, people can seek help in their own language. And then we also have young people and also people who kind of aren't really sure if what they're experiencing is abuse or crisis situation, and they're hesitant to reach out for live help. AI, like Ruth especially, can act as a bridge to be able to help people understand or organize their thoughts and what they're experiencing, and give them the resources to reach out at the time that they're ready to do it, right? So it's kind of like bridging that gap in actually seeking human help. And so it's not ever really meant to replace humans, but it's meant to kind of fill these gaps that are existing. The other piece that's really important also is that a lot of abuse that's happening to people just kind of in the real world also includes technology facilitated abuse, cyber stalking, cyberbullying, things like that. Advocates that are working in this space with real people, human beings, they're not really trained on how to deal with, how do you do two-factor authentication? How do you see if somebody's stalking you or impersonating you on social media, things like that? Like, what do you do about that? So Ruth actually has protocols in place that can help walk people through a digital safety plan. So you can say, I think I'm being cyber stalked by my ex. Like, how do I know? What can I do? And Ruth will take you through a process of assessing your vulnerabilities and then giving you instructions on how to mitigate the risk.
Well, it's interesting. It's just one more step that people don't see, one more aspect of AI that people don't see, and that is filling in the gaps in the human experience. We're all about the technological experience. I think, Sandy, I got to congratulate you. You're doing really important work, and I think you're help humanizing the face of AI as you go about it, because these are important opportunities that are out there that are lacking. The demand for mental health is at an all-time high. And there's a lot of naysayers out there around that in AI. And some of it is prompted by the concern of being replaced. And I think in something like mental health, it's hard to believe anyone could be replaced because there's such demand. So congratulations, great job. And we all want to thank you for moving this forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
Well, we're continuing our series of podcasts from here at Ai4, and one of the most unique characters I think I met on the floor yesterday is with us right now, Steve Toy. He's the CEO of Memrise, right? And it is a language learning system that is based on AI. I'm not going to say too much because I'm going to let you take it and explain it specifically how it differs from what we all know.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, Greg. And so you're right, language learning app, historically, in the same category of all the other ones that you probably are familiar with, Duolingo, Babel Boost, Mindly Drops, and so on. But because of the power that AI has given us, we have evolved into a language learning platform where we can onboard all of the various different features and functionality that are spread out across all kinds of companies and apps in the marketplace, and bring them into one unified, personalized experience in the Memrise platform. And it's been a fun ride doing it.
Well, let's go down that rabbit hole, because
Right.
when you say personalized, I think that's so generalized, right? What does that mean? You're specifically training somebody to their needs to know a language. Explain that to me.
Exactly. Well, so when we ask our users what their goal is, why are they using Memrise, the first answer is always, always, always to learn a language. But when you do the 5 whys, you get a little bit deeper. You're like, okay, why are you learning a language? And why? And they travel, or to talk to the family I just married into, or to make more money as a taxi driver in Turkey. These
Now stop
become
one
the whys.
second. That sounds so obvious, right? That you would probe deeper. Why was that missed for so long, do you think?
That's a very good question. I think the reason it was missed so long in school, the way we learn our second language, in apps, is because we had to teach people with a curriculum, because we are marching everybody to a single test or a single piece of content that you're looking to deliver, or a single exercise that you have created. And you're marching everybody, so you can't care that some people want to go this way and some people want to go that way. There was just no other way to do it. but now there is.
All right, so walk me through it then. It's highly personalized, and it's based on what you're going to need the language for. So, for instance, I'm going to London right after this. I'm going to need it to be able to speak British, right?
Exactly.
And so it personalizes it, and then what? Where does the AI kick in?
Well, what we have done is we've atomized our dictionaries. So if you are going to another country and you know what you want to accomplish in that country, if you're traveling, right? If you like museums, we can give you museum words. If you like food, we can give you food words and so on to help make your experience better. So it starts with the vocabulary. But then we can import infinite videos from the web and match it to the words that you've learned. Right. This is a key thing.
Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Import them?
Right.
Are these generalized videos? What
Right.
exactly are we talking about?
Yeah. Well, so think about it. Whenever you have learned a language in any other environment, people try to give you videos to train your ear, and you get silly videos like the red turtles on the green sweater on the blue chair, which is something that you're never going to hear, but those match the words that you have learned. And on top of that, ed tech companies are just bad at making entertaining videos. So it's not very useful. But when we import YouTube videos en masse, break it down into its words and phrases, we can then filter it by the words that you know. And if your 250 words are different than somebody else's 250 words, well, we can filter different videos for them. And that is a powerful and simple use of AI that's unique to language learning.
That's really phenomenal. But help me with the YouTube videos. Are these your videos, or are these
No.
publicly available videos?
They're publicly available videos because YouTube and the creators on YouTube, they simply want views. So when we show a YouTube video, we show it in a YouTube player. 100% of the credit, the views, and everything goes back to YouTube and to the creator. We have nothing to do with any remuneration from that video. We just gave a video view to the creator that they wouldn't have had otherwise. So it's a perfect win-win.
And how many languages do you support?
So we support about 40 languages, but that combines for over 240 language pairs, because we can teach English from French, from Spanish, from Portuguese, and that's 3 different language pairs.
And so did this all start with the generative AI revolution, or were you doing something similar before that?
Well, it actually started with our pedagogy, which is, we believe the best way to learn a language is to go in country and survive. And the reason that's the best way to learn a language is because you not only learn the meanings of words, but you hear it spoken by native speakers at speed with truncation and accents. And then you're forced to use it if you want to get a beer or a sandwich. And we can now replicate that experience in a coherent way because of what AI gives us in terms of managing multivariate problems. And that's what AI has brought to the table.
All right, break it down. Multivariant problems. You mean what?
We mean that if somebody is simply learning French from English, but the first variable is why? Traveling, talking to your mother-in-law, there's a variable. And then there's variables inside of that. Do you like museums or not like museums when you're traveling? At that point in time, then when we give you videos to listen to, which videos do you want to listen to? When we give you exercises to speak, sometimes maybe you don't pronounce certain words well, so then we'll give you exercises to pronounce. But other people might pronounce those words well, so we don't give them those exercises. So every learning feature and every word that you're learning and every reason that you're learning becomes variables in a problem, and that problem resolves differently for every user.
So what's the biggest use case? Travel, business?
So we have 2 big buckets of users. The first is people who are using it for travel and talking to other people and connecting with other people in life, like a new mother-in-law or a new company in an international location. And the second bucket is for people who want to make their life better. Because a taxi driver in Turkey that speaks English makes more money, and a waiter in Peru that speaks English makes more money. So that's the second bucket of people that are just using it to make their life and their livelihood better.
So with the advent of generative AI, can you give me any broad understandings of how it's impacted language? That's my area of expertise.
Right.
I was brought up as a storyteller. I used to write for major magazines.
Right.
overall, has this shocked you that we can now just use language to interface with a machine?
I mean, it hasn't shocked me, but I think my intuition about it is interesting in that I think it makes reading, writing, clear thinking more important, right? As we interact with these machines, if we can't get our thoughts down and think clearly, the machines won't do the things that we want them to do. And so many people look at this and go, oh, we don't have to worry about good grammar and writing exercises and getting our thoughts down on paper. But the opposite is actually true.
In what way do you think?
I think because if you can't clearly communicate precision of your thoughts, your dreams, your creativity, then there's no way that the machine can act upon it accurately.
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve. My background is of a writer. And sometimes I feel like I'm playing a little parlor trick on people because I've been trained for so many years in how to structure thought in an article, in writing. And I've been taught so many times how to help others structure their thoughts. So when I come to the machine, right, I already have those skills inherently.
Right.
And I find your point to be well taken with people that don't have that nuance, that don't understand how to drive a message, perhaps.
Yep.
And it's not so much the grammar, because I've never been a good a good speller or a grammatician.
Grammarian.
Right? And it doesn't really matter.
Right.
That kind of data is lower level. What's most important is where you want to take the message and how you want to impact the audience. And for me, it's been just a unbelievable experience, a joyful experience in being able to get rid of all that holds people back in communications. And that is the words, the word choice, the grammar,
right,
the syntax, everything that goes along with it, and really try to improve the overall communications experience. And my thought is that anything that improves human communication is a force for good, because think of how much bad happens when we don't understand each other. So, congratulations. That's where you sit, is trying to improve communications between human beings through sharing language. So I appreciate that very much. And
well, thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's a wrap. It's the end of Ai4, the largest AI conference here in the United States. We got to meet with people from all over the world. We had the opportunity to sit down and interview them for our podcast, Disruption Is Now. It's always a learning experience. And the one thing about AI is it changes so fast, you need to stay in the flow. Ai4 gave us the ability to do that, and we hope we shared some of our discoveries and findings with you.
This podcast is a production of Gregory FCA. If you enjoyed our discussion today and want to continue exploring the transformative power of AI, please check out more episodes and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.